Well, good morning.
Good.
Today, I am fortunate enough to have a guest on my podcast, but not just that, I actually have a guest in my home. And so it was a perfect opportunity to do the podcast and get some feedback from another operator who operates our photo booths and who has for a very long time. In fact, he's probably the main reason why I decided to go to work for Apple Industries. Well, him and along with Alan. And anyway, so I with no more time, I guess I want to be able to introduce Brad Brown, who I'm sure everybody knows. He is with Worldwide Video, and he used to be a distributor, and I worked for him for several years, and so we're good friends. I was an ex-employee, and now he's a customer. So we have, our history goes back 20-some years, almost, well, about 25 years, Brad, if you can believe that. Anyway, say hello, Brad.
Thanks, Chris. Hello, everyone. As Chris introduced me, I'm Brad Brown. I'm with Worldwide Video. I've been in the coin-op industry for over 30 years, starting on the East Coast of New England at Bally Northeast, which eventually became one of Betts Enterprises satellite offices. And then I went to work with United Artists Theater Amusements in California. I moved to California and worked with them, helping them sell kits and licensing games. One of the games early for United Artists Theaters, some people may remember, would be a game called Airwolf, which was a great helicopter game at the time. And then United Artists got bought out by an equity company, the theater chain did, and I ended up working for myself and started a company called Worldwide Video. And I would like to believe that if you guys were in videos, or maybe still are, you would remember the game Strikers 1945, because that was one of my games. And distributed all over the United States, and have been operating machines for well over a decade, probably about 15 years as well. And I got involved with Photobooths, right from the very beginning. When cameras were first turning to digital, the photo booth opportunity came along about a year and a half, 2 years later. That concept came about through a company called Faceplace, which Apple Industries purchased at one point. So that's kind of a quick history. I can explain a lot more, but I'll let Chris ask the questions, because I have very much of a passion for the industry. I have with for all this time and still do. And I'm very strategic in what it is I do.
Well, go ahead and talk because this podcast is meant to be just two individuals having a conversation about photo booths in particular, because I want customers, operators who are thinking about getting into the photo booth business to not just hear it from my point of view, but to hear it from those who actually walk the walk and not just talk the talk. So that's why we're doing this. And I want it to be an authentic conversation. I want it to be real, genuine. I want it to be exactly who you are. And then hopefully you'll be able to, share some experience you've had, and that will make a difference to an operator, so that, especially now when things are so hairy and so, we're all struggling, maybe this is going to be an opportunity for them to grow and to actually be more successful in the long term, and just increase their cash flow and increase their real estate. That's the whole purpose of this. So that's my little introduction. And other than that, Brad, I just share with the operators out there what made you decide to start operating photo booths, and where, just talk a little bit about where you started and where you went and where you plan on going in the future.
Okay. All right, because I want to respect everyone's time, and I'll go as quickly as I can. But plus, I'll focus in on the photo booths because that's just one component of my route. So I started with the photo booths not so much because it was my idea, of course. It was introduced as a concept to me back in the early days when Faceplace came out with their black and white machine. Um, I didn't buy that too many of those machines simply because they were so big, and the locations that I was familiar with, which is mostly bars and bar restaurants, were my primary type of locations that I was interested in, that I already either had a relationship with or I knew would probably do best with photo booths. And so when Alan Weisberg, Weisberg from excuse me, from Apple came out with the smaller photo booth, that's the one I concentrated on because it took up a lot less space. So it was quite by accident. I had money, and that's how I started. I had some money to try something like we all do as operators. I put it in a bar, um, and quite honestly, it was an amazing amount of money that I got into that particular bar. Some bars actually work really well, and some bars do not. But the first one I did, like happens to many people when they want to buy more, is it did really well. So I can tell you on a monthly basis, the photo booth I had out there when I first started was doing between $1,500 to $1,800 a month, which I thought was fantastic, and that was before the credit cards. So this was just all cash money. I thought it was astounding. New income, uh, other than a jukebox and a countertop, there really wasn't much of anything else to put into a bar. So when that worked, the idea of putting more photo booths into bars, of course, came into my mind. And as I experimented with it, different locations, just trying to get into the bars, existing bars that already had maybe other types of equipment in it or had nothing at all, which is most of the time. I found that, again, some of them did extraordinarily well and some of them didn't do as well. Like the worst ones I had at that time would do right around 600 a month to 700 a month, maybe, which I felt was acceptable. It wasn't the best, of course, but it was acceptable to me. And anything that did really much less than $400 or $500 a month, I immediately decided not to pursue that much longer because it just wasn't worth my time for the investment I made to continue to leave that booth there when I could move it somewhere else. So I built up a route of photo booths up to a dozen, and that can really only be done in a geographical area where you have certain types of bars that photo booths would do well in. And those are typically bars where women go out and get dressed up for girls' night out, and dance clubs where typically that's a dance club. Um, it's not a local bar thing. It's not a bar that it's just the locals kind of go in and out all the time. And it's the same people. It's more of a weekend, uh, go out and you know try to find love and romance. It's kind of a thing where you're going out looking for possible dates. Um, so with that in mind, I just took out went online or went through a particular magazine. I think this was even a little bit before online, um, and looked up the top dance bars, the top dive bars, because dive bars actually do really well. Um, and those are the ones I targeted and went after to get the machines in. The investment was pretty high. It was at the time, I think, $6,800, $7,200 a machine. So I went slow, but I continued to grow with it because the machine performed well, was very, very consistent, which I found astounding that it would be consistent as much as it was. Within $100 a month was typical. And I never really had to think about or worry about moving it or worry about another operator coming in and trying to put their photo booth instead of mine as if they could do better. It's a very popular machine in the bars. The people that go in and use it, the women mostly, who sometimes drag their boyfriends in, they love it, and the bartenders liked it, and the owners liked it. Not just because it gave them some money, because it did, of course, but because the feedback that they got from their customers was really always positive about the photo booth. And then the other thing that happened by organically was that they would take their photos and post them on their walls, of the bar's walls, which added a sense of community to the location and created more income for us because it drew attention to it, because they figured that they might want to take their pictures and leave one strip behind as well. So I have nothing but good things to say about the photo booth. The only thing I can say is that it's on the negative side is that it doesn't work for every location, like most machines don't, but it will not work for every location. But where it does, I can leave it in that location for many, many years. As a matter of fact, I have still quite a few locations that have been with me with that photo booth since new. Gosh, what, about 12 years now or more? No, we got to be more. In the same location, doing pretty much the same amount of money, as long as the bar didn't change hands and they changed, the type of bar it became, or it was. I've
And
left them there, and they've been great.
that's awesome. So, we're all in this, I don't even know what to call it anymore, but we're in what,
COVID-19.
end of the COVID. We're not in the middle, we're not in the beginning, that's for sure, but hoping that it's more to the end. And God only knows, but
Well,
you're from California, you're from San Diego, and a few of your locations are open, but so let's not talk about the present. Let's focus on the future. What are your plans in the future for your route and photo booths in particular, Brad?
well, my route is, I'm getting older. I'm 63 years old now, so I'm thinking about a retirement, and that could look like many different things to different people. But for me, a number of years ago, I decided that I was going to pare down what I was willing to do and wanting to do strategically, and what I wasn't. Photo booth, photo booths for me always was going to remain in my mix of machines for a number of reasons. Besides the steady income, which, um, again, for my good locations these days, that's around, I'd say about $1,200 a month is what I'm getting in my better locations, and it still runs all the way down to like $600 to $700 a month for my so-so medium locations. So that's been consistent, which is good. But the thing that keeps me in the photo booth business besides that is that since they're connected online, I know how much money I'm making, which is great. I know when the machine is not working, which is great. And I know when the paper is getting low to do a service call, because these days I only do service calls once a month with photo booths. The other thing I've been able to parlay on a number of my bar locations was the ability to let them use them for special events. When they would have a party, they could rent out the photo booth, and I would allow them uh, to offer it on free play to their customers, which they would charge, usually in San Diego, I'm speaking, for anywhere from $450 to $650 for their event, which most events would last between 4 to 5 hours. And I would charge them $350 so that they could make a nice profit and be motivated to do that. And I could do everything remotely, which was real easy for me. It was another source of income, real easy income. And so that typically would actually add in a number of locations, not all, because obviously a lot of them don't do that, but the ones that did, that would usually add between an additional, well, no less than $350, but usually all the way up to $1,200 extra a month. They'd maybe rent it 3 times in a month, especially during the holiday seasons, of course.
Right.
So it just offered me more opportunities to make more money without having to really put a lot more man hours into it. I've also pared down my route where I really, worldwide video, I specialize in that. I only have one video game left on my entire route. I just concentrate now on jukeboxes, boxing machines, and photo booths, pool tables where I can, which not always easy to get. And I'm doing mini cranes and a winner every time business model. That I found to be extraordinary. Getting locations with that has been extremely easier. I won't say super easy because nothing's like a slam dunk, but I get a lot of locations because of the size, and the business models win every time, which is very appealing because a lot of locations don't either have the space or they don't want their customers to go away unhappy at all. So the winner every time business model is something that is a good selling point. And in all those machines I mentioned, with the exception of the pool tables, the boxing machine, the jukeboxes, the even my machine, because I got them connected, and the mini cranes and the photo booths and the boxing machines, they're all connected to the internet. So when I go to retire, I'm going to have a system in place where a potential buyer or operator is going to have full access to the entire business model of what the income is and what each location is doing, so they can see for themselves and through electronic history. Makes it a lot easier to operate a route when you can just sit at your desk and turn on your computer and see where pretty much everything is doing. Not everything, because I don't have everything connected, but most everything is connected. And that's a strategic business decision to make in order to work on exiting out of the business eventually, whatever that might be. That's one way of putting it. The other way of putting it is just a good business to know what your business is doing at all times. And the photo booth did that quite well when they transitioned over to the Smile 2.0 software. And that opened up my eyes to wanting to do that for all the locations. So the Calcomat boxing machines, for instance, they have their own system as well, where you can look and see how much money's in the machines, which is awesome.
Right. Yeah, that's, I know from an operating standpoint, it's very helpful when those things, that easy access is available to them.
You can monitor it. It's basically, it just gives you some comfort, because there's a lot of times where I may not want to go out on the field, but I think I have to because I haven't been there in a while. And then I'll go online and I'll see how much money's in those locations. And then I might choose not to go to those locations because, one, they might not really care. If they did, of course, I'd go. But if there's not a lot of money in them for whatever reason, or it's not ready, I can just choose to go somewhere else and do some other project that I'm working on. But I know you want to talk about a little bit more about the photo booths, because that's, your area, Chris. So I'll just tell operators, if you do it and you put it in a location and it doesn't do well, for whatever reason, it doesn't do well, and it's possible, everything's possible, I would really encourage you to move it quickly into another location and try another location until you do get a good location. And then you'll understand that once that's in there, it will stay there. It's not something that you need to worry about to rotate. It's not something you're going to worry is going to lose income over time because it's been in there for a long time. As a matter of fact, in San Diego, and I can't speak for anywhere else in the country, there are websites where you can look up photobooths in San Diego, and it comes up with all the bars that have the photobooths in them. And it's weird, but people seek out those bars. Not all people, of course. Some people really go, let's go get our photo taken, and then they'll go to that bar. I'm not saying that that's a big part of the business, but it certainly is a part of the business.
That's very interesting.
And I really don't see photo booths popularity going away ever. I don't, because people love taking pictures. Yes, they post them on Facebook, because the biggest thing that most people say is, why would anybody want to go in a photo booth, when they can just take their picture and for free? And it's because that's, if you look at the psychology, and I have 2 master's degrees in psychology, and I did a lot of research on photo booths. It's because it gives the people that are wanting to go into it a chance to have a little bit of privacy in a very public place. It gives them a chance to be goofy in there together. So if there's a guy and a girl in there and they're on their first date, or they're just on a date, doesn't really matter if it's their first date, it gives them a chance to be a little bit, have some fun and be a little bit romantic inside, and then capture that on 4 pictures, which is a memento to keep. It's just a fun experiential process. It's not just about taking a picture. It's the whole experience. And you can't duplicate that by somebody taking a picture on a phone. It's not the same experience. And there's just enough people that will do it in a bar or nightclub. I like dance clubs in particular, and nightclubs. That your income will be consistent. And if your income's like mine, and I can tell you it's amazing, but when I tell you, like, I get $1,200 a month or $1,000 a month out of a particular bar, it's that way every month. It's pretty much like that every month, unless they have a really bad month for some reason. But it's really close regardless. And some of these places don't have to be that big. Like, I had this one bar, and they actually closed because of the COVID thing problem. But it was a really small bar. It was kind of like a divey bar, but it was a dance bar, but it was small. But there was always lines out there for people to go in. And my machine was the only machine in there, because they had DJs in there all the time. And that bar was like clockwork. I mean, I really missed that location, because that was a great location for such a small spot.
Right.
And there's lots of those out there. If you live in the rural areas of the country, there might not only be 2 or 3 or 4 of that type of location. Maybe. I don't know. It depends on the rural location. But if you live near any cities, there's a number of bars. Probably, I would say you probably could find no less than 8 to 12 bars, I would think, that would be in that potential of $800 to $1,200 a month income. That's been my experience. Not just when I'm saying it for myself, but also because I do know a lot of operators in the United States. I call around to other operators that I know very well from the many years I distributed to, and we talk about all the types of equipment and what they're doing. Because we're willing to share that information. We're not competitors, but we share that information. And not everything they suggest to me works. Not everything I suggest to them works, but most of the time it does. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. That's all we're doing, is having a conversation, sharing our experiences, and hoping that this will benefit somebody, anybody that is looking for something different. Photo booths aren't new. They've been around for over 130 years. and we expect them to be around for at least another 130 years. So,
Wow.
it's,
Well,
yeah,
I'll be
it's,
dead by then, Chris. I think my
you,
experience
you
talking to
might be, I don't
operators.
know if I will be, we'll see,
Yeah, right.
uh,
My experience with operators that don't want to do photo booths, it's because they look at the price tag in the beginning and it looks too expensive.
right,
That's one. The second thing is that they've never operated that kind of a piece of equipment before, and they can't even imagine it working. They can't
right,
even imagine it working because they go, well, why would anybody do it? Because of phones and whatever.
right.
So there's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of, I got to say, there's a lot of resistance to it,
Hmm.
which is unfortunate. Personally, I think it's a big mistake. I mean, I keep wanting to put out more photo booths, and
Well,
there's a
and this
reason
is
why, and I wouldn't do it unless I knew it would work. And I'm grateful that there's operators in San Diego that don't want to operate photo booths because it gives me the whole city to put out whatever as many photo booths as I can.
right,
And I'm really grateful for that. Matter of fact, I'm
right,
grateful because some of the operators call me and tell me that their location wants a photo booth and they just don't want to fool with it, which to me makes, oh my God, I'm so grateful that you think that way. But in a way, I think to myself, why don't you do it? I'll tell them that because quite honestly, there's quite a few people I'll say, why don't you do it? And then when they say I don't want to, then I say, okay, I'll do it then if you don't want to. But they should. They
right.
absolutely should.
Well, and you know what? I think that I could talk, I could say this until I'm blue in the face, but when a fellow operator will say this, and it's coming directly from you, then it just means that much more. And so I don't want to be, I just want to have the message presented to all of us, because we all need to, I guess you never know what it is that can benefit that operator. You just don't know what it is. And I want to do everything I can to help our industry, especially now we're all hurting. And so if this will make a difference for somebody in just one location, if it works for somebody, then I'll feel like my job is done. I mean, that's, or at least I've done something to benefit this industry.
It
So,
doesn't it doesn't take much, Chris, for an operator to buy one or two, and maybe that would be the all that they get. But if they get the one or two that are doing between $800 to $1,200 a month, like what I have gotten, that's a substantial amount of money. I mean, yeah, got to take the commissions out and so forth, but still, it adds to the body of our profits and our
mhm,
cash flow. I had one
mhm,
operator that had a downtown location in San Diego. He had two pool tables in there, and they asked for a photo booth, and he didn't want it. He didn't want to do it. I tried telling him, I said, you really ought to do it. And he said, no. I said, okay, I'll put it in there. And honestly, when I got there, they showed me the place where they wanted to put it, which was in this like little cubby hole next to the pool table, but it was in a cubby hole. You couldn't even see the photo booth. It was in a cubby hole. So I really didn't want to do it, because I thought that was not a good place to put it. But I was surprised. I was wrong. It ended up being one of my best locations, to be honest with you. It was because people were hanging out by the pool table and they could see the photo booth in that little cubby area. And then word gets around when they carry around their little strips and they show their friends at the bar and they go, where'd you get that? And so I don't know. Just
yeah, it literally can snowball when those things happen, when, yeah, either they're walking around with the strip in their hand, or if they've got a selfie wall, started, then it's something that can actually snowball, and everybody wants their photo on the wall, or everybody wants to be showing their photos along with the other friends or whoever else is in the bar. So it can kind of,
Chris, what I do is I ask the bar owner if I could put up some plexi on their wall, screw it into their wall, and then I seed it with some strips, photo booth strips, and stick it in there, because they slide underneath. And then, within 2 months, that whole that whole section of plexiglass that I put there, and I don't start off huge. I start off relatively small. Is full. As a matter of fact, they're sticking out. And so then I asked the barman if he minds I put another one in there, and usually they'll say, of course, yes. And before you know it, I've got a number of walls in there that are full of pictures. And I don't know, just as again, it's another marketing tool, but it's another demonstration of how that business model will work. It's proof positive right there when you see all those strips that people are going into them. And they look at the
Right.
pictures, and they think how funny and cute some of them are, and then they want to go in the photo booth themselves to do the same thing.
Or they may recognize somebody. So,
Or they might, that could be good or bad in some locations.
all
Oh, that was
right.
the boyfriend I was with last week. But
Uh,
but that's okay. I mean, that's just part of the fun.
right. Well, Brad, we could talk and talk all day, and I appreciate so much this information, and I know that Brad would be willing to visit with any operator who would like to talk with him about it, because he loves to talk strategy and just talk about all kinds of different products with operators all over the world, because we are literally all in this together. And so we're all here to help any way we can, and especially now because because our industry has suffered so much. But I'm somewhat grateful. I'm going to just say this, I'm a little bit grateful that COVID happened, because I was able to talk Brad into coming out and actually visiting me. And so we had a few days to spend together, and just spending some quality time together during this hard time. And it's really been a light of the week, and I'm so thrilled to have you here and host you in my home, and to call you friend, and also to call you customer. So I thank you so much, and appreciate this time that you've given us.
No problem, Chris.
All right, you take
Thanks.
care, um, and we will be talking soon.
You got it.